Well, you and I selected the fabric, so basically it was my job then to go styling it with you, reaching out to the mill, and then meanwhile Alex has been cutting your pattern, bundled together and given out to the relevant parties making your garment.
How's that feel?
Yeah, feels great.
I've actually selected a fantastic brace of heritage guns, which I would love to show you, which I think will be ideal for what you're going to be doing in Scotland.
The basic weaving principle is still as it was done over 100 years ago on this site in Hawick.
And then we saw some deer earlier on the fields. Pull.
I'm Kirby Allison, and for years now, I've been exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. I've been invited on my very first game shoot up on an estate in Scotland, and I want to make sure that I do it properly. The proper outfit, the proper guns, the proper etiquette. But in today's world, does all of this still exist? And if so, why? Wow, what a day. I mean, nice shoot. We just had an incredible dinner. We had some great weather. And now we're sitting in front of a roaring fire. So I don't think that it gets much better than this, does it?
No, absolutely, Kirby. I appreciate that very much so.
Well, thank you all for coming out and for introducing me to this tradition of proper shooting. And I do think that we've done it properly.
I think that we've done it with basically the good community and the finest and the best in everything which we had come together with. So whether we had suits, we had guns, we had cloth, the combination of it all together came this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I'm really struck by is how, each of you in your own respective trades really represent the pinnacle. I mean, the people that we have gathered here in this room are practicing their craft at the highest level in a traditional way, honoring, the tradition and the history of the craft, doing it today really how it's been done for a long time. Seeing it out there in its natural environment kind of being used together, I think really just gives me an even more profound appreciation for not just these crafts individually, but how it's really an entire lifestyle and really an entire philosophy of life, and how that together is even more meaningful. And especially with George, I mean, the gamekeeper, I mean, seeing the work that he does, all year round, which is a year-round full-time job for him. Not only to, of course, raise the birds and to organize the shoots, but again, the larger context of the impact it has within the community, on the environment, and really on the entire ecosystem of just this area, right? In the same way that your trades, keep alive traditional craft, artisanship, and really just the beauty behind this old way of doing things?
I mean, for me, it's obviously what you saw today with the suit. You saw it actually fit, you saw the comfort, you saw the function of it all. And that intertwined with the cloth itself, with working with the gun itself. And that's what I learned, from you, Jim, was that the whole thing is also fitted very much for the person with the gun that combines it with the suit and the practicalities of the cloth that comes back to the mill. So those three aspects, for me, was a learning curve for me to see it all work.
Yeah.
Here we are today seeing it.
Yeah. And I think especially with Jim and with Purdy, how, again, you've got this shotgun that is meant, of course, as a firearm to shoot, right? But the nuance with which the way it's crafted out there, allows you to perform at a much higher level. I mean, more comfortably, with more precision, and with more consistency. You combine that with the suit, that again is constructed with the pleats to allow you to reach higher, right? The bellows pockets, you can put your shells in that, right? And then with the combination of the cloth, that not only blends into its natural environment, right, but has the, really the natural kind of performance characteristics of something that's water repellent, that's warm, right, and very breathable. And again, you see how, all these things, it's easy to think of just the product, in a singular way, but you have to step back and really appreciate it within the context of the environment in which it originally arose.
And I think that's, bringing that point is, that's been the craft for centuries now, over 200 years with Henry Poole. It's still maintained. We might tweak it in terms of structure, in terms of weight, but the ambience and the feel and the body is still there. But that's what makes it last so long. So, here we are buying the product, but at the end of the day, if it lasts the test of time for 10, 20 years, it's something that really is admirable for such a craft that's still surviving to produce these products, knowing that's going to be this way for generations to come.
Yeah.
I also think everything that's really important, it's all UK based. So we're producing wools in Scotland, we're producing the garment down in London. We're coming up here to enjoy the environment. We're taking game, we're honouring the game in how we dress, and then we're having a beautiful meal this evening, eating the game.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely circular, using the local community at the same time. So the whole thing is enveloped in, yes, we're the six of us and plus are happy to enjoy this environment, but also we're including the rest of the economy and the local community in the way we do that. So the whole thing is circular, which is really important to how we exist as industries and who we employ and how we go forward to the future as well, especially in this in this day and age.
Yeah, well, I'm really struck by the humanity of it all, right? And that, I mean, at the end of the day, you guys are supporting tremendous companies, right, of employees that have been, like in your case, Jim, working at Purdy for over 30 years. These are highly skilled craft people that are dedicating their entire lives to producing something at the absolute highest level. And there's true beauty in that, and I think that it's worth honoring, the effort that goes into it, but without losing kind of the context of the greater picture of the fact that, again, it is supporting, that sustainability, that, the ecology of just the area with what George is doing, and then the durability of it. I mean, of course, in the case of Purdy, we shot with guns today that are over 50 years old.
That's right, yeah.
Simon, you routinely are altering suits that, have been handed down, multi-generationally. And then, of course, the cloth is able to then sustain all of that, with its own durability. And the authenticity of it also. It's easy for someone, you guys have the great privilege of living in this environment in which all this really, kind of organically arose. But someone like myself, thousands of miles away in the United States, we don't think of tweed in terms of the Scottish countryside. We saw this suit today, just how it really kind of lit up in the environment, in a way that just, really struck me of just how beautiful it was. The reason being that, of course, even the fibers that the yarn was spun from were taken, out of inspiration of the environment itself.
I think that with all of us, it's a collaboration without really knowing. We're all craft. We all hone on one talent. Obviously not. It really is. We create this environment, the culture around it, and it flourishes. But it's a sport. People enjoy it, and we really want to enjoy the guns and everything else. But the clothing that comes with it, it's a massive culture. It can be stereotypical sometimes in regards to, you know, how it's perceived, but everyone can enjoy this sport. That's what I enjoy, especially when we're making guns, is that we know that the customers are always going to enjoy it. And when we've come here today, and you know, thinking about the clothing and everything that comes with it, with the fit of the gun, with the fit of the clothing and everything, it's so important that is the experience that comes with the whole shooting experience. You know, and together with all of us, I believe that the customer will always get a really good experience with that. You know.
Yeah.
We talked earlier today. We talked earlier today about the amount of work that goes in sourcing the walnuts for your stock.
Yeah.
And tomorrow, James and I will meet a man from the Shetland Islands and the furthest northern islands in Scotland, who spins special wools for us. And it's a close relationship to get just something unique, just some small quantity that's available, and have it made just for you.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of real privilege.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of the greatest pursuit is, you know, meaning, right? Of having something made by someone you know. It's not anonymous. It's not being done, you know, in some country that you've never visited by people that you'll never come across. It's done with passion, with skill, and with true knowledge of the context in which it's meant to be used. And you know, that to me is, I think, one of the most meaningful things. And being able to go out there and in the Scottish countryside to enjoy sporting pursuits got meaning to it.
Yeah, I mean, with this day and age, a lot of you know, a lot of products are always geared towards, you know, mass manufacturers. Craft now is seen as, you know, in quite high regard. And I think that sometimes that can get lost. I think that, you know, when it comes down to companies that are really focused on craft and thinking about, you know, production and craft, you know, you can build a business off of that. You know, but one or the other can be detrimental to your business. Now, when we have been talking about today, you know, there is a fine line, and I believe all our companies have got that fine line, and it's something we think about daily in regards to, you know, it's still a business. However, we still hold that craft. You know, the Purdy's have been there for over 200 years.
Yeah.
You know, we still have that craft, and you know, we have a lot of apprentices, and we're teaching them to build the future. You know, so that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Why do you think, I mean, a question for all of you, I mean, we've seen, I think, a rebound to quality and a resurgence of interest in handmade and bespoke. You know, what is it that really has, you think, driven that? I mean, from each of your own kind of unique perspectives.
I think it is ultimately considering where something comes from, considering the authenticity, the provenance beyond when it arrives in that box at your front doorstep. People are thinking beyond that. And for us, it's the people involved in that. So, you know, I guess from our perspective and from yourself, you've seen where the spun wools start, to the point in the individual has picked those out and started winding those, started twisting them. Every point in that stage comes out to your garment, and ultimately to the point in which you enjoy wearing that garment, or into which you enjoy wearing using that gun.
Yeah.
But you consider more of where that's come from. I think we're all a lot more aware of where something has come from, regardless of exactly the source of it, but who's been involved in that.
Yeah.
And actually the touch of that, and you know, I hope you can see the pride in the people who are working on your cloth.
Yeah.
You know, they knew exactly who you were when you came to the mill and why you were there, and also what they were putting into your cloth and the pride that they had in that quality. They weren't pulling the cloth over the table at 1,000,000 miles an hour. We weren't running those machines as quickly as they could go, because we know that the quality is the best part of that. So we don't run them as quickly as we can, because we're not trying to make as much money from those looms going as quickly as they can, because we need that to be perfect, because in turn we need that cloth to go to Simon. He knows that that is the best quality cloth. Everything about that has been touched at every stage. Everything that he then touches comes to you. You wear that, you enjoy that. You then go on and you take the gun that you know is right. And all of that becomes a little bit more important when we're starting to consider how things are made, where they were made, the ethics on how they were made. And I think we're starting to open our eyes a little. And I suppose for my generation, we were probably a little bit naive to that, and we're probably the Amazon generation, whereas we can click a buy it now button and it arrives the next day. Quite quickly, someone's saying, well, what's the carbon footprint of that? All these elements you start tracking back, and it's great. I'm absolutely privileged to be involved in something that I can track exactly what you're wearing today back to the individual
cases down to the
that arrived
sheep.
in the box. Exactly. And it's a very privileged position for us to be in, but it's a privileged position to enjoy that quality as well.
I mean, it's the integrity behind the product that you know that it's being done, ethically, sustainably, and really with quality that is going to give it the durability that will allow it to last and thereby make it worth investing in.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And a bit of a non sequitur, but something came out in discussion today in different conversations we all had through the day. And it was how we all are very, very mindful about who are going to be the future craftsmen and women, who are going to be the young people that will fill these positions, taking quite long and arduous training. In the case of your world, Jim, it's one hell of an apprentice. But who are they going to be? Who are these people that will keep this ball of skills rolling forward into the future? And we're all mindful of it. I mean, literally, James has been brilliant in bringing new skills, new people in, and getting them placed and enthused to live with this craftsmanship. And it's not just an easy thing to fall to young people to think in those terms. But there are people out there, and it's our duty to find them and nurture them and keep them going. Because Simon, it's your world. Jim, it's your world. It's our world. These things really are essential. And finding these people.
Well, there's certainly a younger generation that I think is certainly has a very newfound interest in the craft, right? But that has to be coupled, with a new generation of people interested in actually performing the craft, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I would say it comes down to something like we're all familiar with the Amazons of the world. But there is an information technology now where the websites can find out about brands and people are learning, and I think that's also a good positive thing that people are now researching into brands that have substance and have history and heritage. And I think that's also, like you touched on too, Stephen, you were saying that we survive because we bring in the next generation to do what we do and don't compromise on anything. So that's
and it's costly to do that.
It's costly. It's part of a budget.
We must invest in these people and in our firms, in our future.
And they're great teams to work with. It brings in a nice community, and we treat them and hopefully nurture them for the next generation. So there's nothing better that I think that when you have a client that's researched into you, comes to you, and embraces what his opportunity is to enjoy something he can design. He can work with you, he can meet his coat maker, he can meet his trouser maker, and we're all on premises to do so, and that's the next gen. So, after it's passed on for the next, family business or name of brand, that quality still remains for the years to come. So, 5 years with you, in Purdy for training, 3 years for me, 3 years for you, it's all there. This is what happens, and that's the heritage that we strive for in the years to come with these sort of brands.
I do think that as well, that all of our companies are something that's tangible. We're something which can be visited, seen, touched. You talk about the Amazon thing. It's not that. It's just a button to click. And that is something it's old but now new because it's sort of like roles reversed. We're talking about companies that can have tours. You can go around and marvel at these crafts and hand-eye coordination, filing and all this sort of stuff is new but very old. It's a bit of an anomaly, but it's now growing again, and
it's a little bit of an oxymoron. I mean,
exactly. And with the culture and the environment and the sport that we're in, I'm hopeful that it can grow because of that. There's a lot of interest because of that, because there is such an environment now where everything is just so easily, you can get it so easily. Whereas, in some aspects, Purdy's, if you want to come to us, we're accessible. You can come and have a look, but you can't get us on a button.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing we're looking for, and that's what we look for the future.
And I think that goes back to the humanity and the meaning of it all.
Yeah.
And that people are looking for experiences. I mean, anyone can press a button, on their phone and have something show up at their doorstep tomorrow. They don't know where it came from, who made it, how it was made, and they certainly had no experience associated with that purchase.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love about all of this is that there is an experience and a humanity associated with it. Not only do you get to go in for multiple fittings at a beautiful shop on Savile Row, the first one on the row, but you're able to develop a relationship with the people who are actually making this for you. You can see it being made and really participate in its creation. And then to be able to go out in this environment and actually use it as it was intended on being used, to me is kind of full circle.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it comes around to this, what we've experienced this, in this piece we've done together, it really brings to heart a product that really surmises the quality and the craft of what we can push out there to enjoy with many of our customers from years to come. And
don't
it's
forget
up to
the
us.
tradition.
And tradition as well, yeah. But it's up to us to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And there's always going to be demand for it, as everyone does. They research into more what quality and craft is.
I think the internet's done a large part in allowing that to happen. A long time ago, whenever people lived much closer to home, we didn't have this, global world like we did now. You inherited and learned these things, from your parents, from your forefathers. Mm. And I think as we've moved around and become much more mobile, in the 80s and 90s, I think that was broken. And I grew up, understanding nothing about quality, nothing about craftsmanship, and certainly nothing about traditions surrounding those. And it was only until I was able to learn about that on the internet did I first get introduced to bespoke suiting. Again, today I'm still as mesmerized today as I was whenever I was young at the whole idea that you can have something made totally by hand from 100% natural fibers, the same way that it's been done for hundreds of years. Not just 100, but in many cases, well over 100. And although you guys are using modern technology, at the end of the day, it's the same product that you guys have been doing for over 150 years in all three cases here.
There was a time where the selection or the understanding of cloth just disappeared because the ready-made clothing world from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, ready-made with everything. So the consumer went in and made one purchase, which was a jacket or a suit. And in fact, the whole notion of choosing a distinct fabric to then say, well, I'll prefer this over this over this, that process disappeared out of the process. Just couldn't do it. And it was just buy the garment. And I think that comes back in our world where people can actually enjoy that process. People like Alan and Ruth create collections of designs and variety, and really standing on the shoulders of these earlier Victorian designers who had all sorts of design tricks and tweed design and so forth, which to us are quite exciting, and we notice them and spot them and go like, Mark's there. But that is coming back. People can begin to find that again, and that's quite nice to see.
I was struck with you, Alan, how you had these old notebooks, from the early 20th century, like 1910, 1905, of the designer notes and the way that they kind of drew out, the way that it was woven. And then I look at the fabric, that you guys were weaving for me. This exact same fabric that you guys loaded on the loom, there, stuck on the clipboard was effectively the same notation of how it was to be done.
I think we're truly a craft, sort of desperately trying to be an industry, but we'll never make that leap because really our feet are so firmly sunk in the craft. From my point of view, I've had nearly 50 years in this industry and had a blast. It's been great fun. Really enjoyed it as a young designer up through to running our own mill. It's been great fun, and it's a great pleasure, as you noticed, that a younger man has come in to follow in my shoes to take it forward. And I'm just so annoyed because the exciting bit's the next bit.
Yeah.
But you'll do fine. You'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it kind of touches nicely on the fact that you know, shooting with a wonderful pair of Purdy's today, which were 50 years old.
Yeah, we all took around on those, I think.
Well, exactly. I think we all had a lot of fun. But I was shooting with my grandfather's gun.
Yeah,
you
were.
Which is older, which is evidently older than that. But it goes the same way that we're creating product which is able to be enjoyed by future generations.
Yeah.
Exactly, very privileged to be going to enjoy a business which is going to be enjoyed by future generations, very much so. But I think that's very key. In a way, in the world of sustainability, where we're chased by, obviously we work in the fashion world, so we're chased by many certification processes which ask us to make a sustainable product. They were doing it 100 years ago. Purdy were doing it 100 years ago. Henry Poole were doing something which was made in the UK by hand, by UK consumer. We don't have any problems with any of this stuff being sent elsewhere because we are already doing what many people aspire to change their businesses to, and it's a lovely place to be. But I think the fundamental part is we're all enjoyed today as a result of what future generations have done as a sustainable product.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yes, granted, my gun wasn't a Purdy, but it's still really lovely for me to be able to pick up something that my grandfather bought and has lasted that amount of time. I have to hold my hands up and say, probably 90% of everything I've bought in the last 10 years, my grandchildren won't necessarily be able to use. Because we're in this world where we're used to that. But for the products that I know that I can invest in, a bespoke suit that can be altered, that can be passed down in generations, I hope to be able to buy a Purdy maybe one day and pass that on. These other elements of that is exactly where we're all trying to now move our lifestyles to. We're immediately enjoying some of the things that were done 100 years ago because we were already in that position.
Yeah, but it's kind of an interesting perspective because in some ways, we all aspire to be able to, buy a pair of Purdy shotguns that could last, forever. But it doesn't have to be to that degree. I mean, we all aspire to that level, and everyone in this room represents their craft at the absolute highest level, and that's inspiring. But it doesn't have to, be either you get there or just don't go anywhere, right? I mean, it's buying just a little bit fewer items, but of a higher quality, so that instead of throwing something away every year, you're able to keep a cashmere or woolen sweater, for 5 or 10, 15 or 20 years. And so that is, I think, a progression in the right direction. And it really kind of all comes back to an appreciation of craft and quality, craftsmanship, and tradition, as we speak so often about here on Kirby Allison.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you all, gentlemen. I mean, this has been a pinnacle week, and boy, what a culmination today out there in the Scottish countryside, all together, enjoying fellowship with one another, sporting, and just having a good time. And then back at the house, Craig's Anchor House, great dinner, incredible food, absolutely exceptional service and hospitality here. And then here we've got this beautiful fire that is now burning down a little bit, but has certainly served us well with plenty of heat, as Simon as I know.
Absolutely, I'm here.
The wool here, the tweed is working in the reverse by helping keep me cool, from this hot fire. But what a pleasure and what an honor for me. So, thank you all, and thank you all for your commitment to quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. So, gentlemen, if there's anything left, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
you.